My name is Crystal, and my favorite color is green, and my favorite kind of ice cream is cookie dough. Being a kid is awesome! I'm sure all of you would agree, right? But the key we want to know is, how can we harness all this wonderful energy of childhood into our everyday lives as adults? Growing up as a kid was a little hard for me. I'm a little goofy, if you couldn't tell already in the first 8 seconds I've been up here. People would tell me over and over again, act your age, not your shoe size. Now, I never really liked this statement. It kind of implies that acting childish or younger than you are is somehow inappropriate or immoral or wrong, and I don't really agree with that. I work with kids, I volunteer with kids, I've spent my whole life studying children and trying to understand them and help them grow into the best people that they want to be. The speeches you've heard today are amazing and inspiring, but they're all geared toward adults from an adult mindset. And I'm going to talk to you today about how to make your lives better as adults, coming from a children's perspective. And it's just as important as everything else we've learned here today. Okay, now I'm going to tell you to do the opposite of what I was told growing up. So instead of acting your age, not your shoe size, I'm going to encourage every one of you here to act your shoe size, not your age. First of all, I'm sure you want to know who this weirdo is on stage who's telling you to do things with your life. My name is Crystal Martens. I'm an artist. I'm a developmental services worker. I'm a nature lover. I'm a substitute teacher for the Lambton Kent School Board here in this area. I'm an early childhood educator. I'm a face painter. I started my own face painting business. And I'm a grown-up goofball. I love dressing up. Anybody will tell you, you'll find me in a costume or a wig whenever I get the slightest opportunity. TEDx seemed like a pretty good opportunity to do that. So, I'm going to break it down for you. How to act your shoe size, not your age, in 8 simple steps. Step number 1, don't make assumptions. I've started off with a Steinbeck quote from his really famous book, East of Eden. It's an amazing book if you get a chance to read it. The quote is, "There are no ugly questions except those clothed in condescension." When I read this, I stopped reading and I wrote it down because it was so profound to me. I love this quote because it gives us permission to ask questions. In today's society, we're so quick to judge others and compare and make assumptions about someone based on how they look, where they're from, how they act. This quote says, if you are genuinely interested in someone or in wanting to know something, just ask. Children do this perfectly. Bren hinted at it earlier, and I loved when he said that. Put your hand up if you've ever witnessed a conversation or been in one where a child has asked you a question. You answer their question, and then they go on to ask you why. You say, well, blah, 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 and you explain it again, and they say, yeah, but why? And this goes on over and over. Why? Usually what ends up happening is we get frustrated, and we say, well, just because I said so. We get frustrated with the child, but we forget to understand that this is how they function. This is all they know, is asking questions to understand the world around them. Imagine how our society would be if we all asked questions like that out of genuine sincerity, without judgment or assumptions. Point number 2, spend time outside. I'm a nature lover, so it's easy for me to say that. I see lots of benefits. We all know it's good to get a little fresh air and to get exercise, but this goes a little bit deeper. With children, in 2005, a study came out that was in a book, and the author identified this disorder. It's called nature deficient deficit disorder, NDD. And it's characterized by human beings, especially children, spending less time outdoors, which results in a wide range of behavioral problems. There's other things like anxiety and depression that develop as well, just from not spending enough time outside. There's studies proving this. Now, if they're creating entire disorders based on children's deficiency of outdoor access, you can imagine what it's doing to us. So, while we encourage children to get outside more, let's go outside with them. Be honest. Okay, story time here. 3-year-old Crystal was standing with her mother after church one day. I was standing there while my mom talked to this older lady, and I noticed that she had a bit of upper lip hair, shall we say. I stood there staring at her, wondering, why? What is going on? I've never seen this before. My mother kept eyeing me because she knew what she was thinking, because she's my mother. Eventually, I tugged on her skirt and I said, "Mommy, I never seen a lady with a mustache before." My mother was mortified. Luckily, the woman was pretty gracious. She laughed it off and she said, "Oh, you'll see one day, dear." I suppose it's my karmic demise that I now, as a nearly 30-year-old woman, have to deal with issues of facial hair myself, like most of the women in the world. But that woman was gracious because she understood that I was just being honest. I saw something and I said what was in my brain. I think it's so important for us to do this too. Live simply. Have you ever noticed that children are a lot like cats? You buy them a big, fancy, expensive toy. You pay lots of money for shipping. It comes in, you give it to them, and they spend all their time playing with the cardboard box that it came in. There's a reason for this. Children and animals are wise. They know that the key to happiness and having a good time is to live simply. With children, it's all about imagination. A cardboard box is a dragon. It's Dad's Volkswagen that they get to pretend to drive in. It can be so many things. In the education sector, there's a big push now and a movement towards play-based learning. This basically means that the children play and we as educators observe them. What they're interested in, we program to suit their interests. And that's how you get children engaged. A part of this is also using loose parts, such as sticks or leaves or things we find outside, recycled items, just things you never think of, things you don't even have to buy. Now, this is so important because by giving children these random materials, we're allowing them to express their creativity through these parts. Usually, toys are designed with a specific intent and a specific purpose. That just doesn't have the same results as loose parts. This one's my favorite. Eat what you like until you're full. It's pretty simple. Food is amazing, and life is short. Right? Yeah, you're laughing because it's true. You know it's probably the best part of life. Devour the donut, chomp the cheesecake, engulf the enchilada. Okay, you get the point. As adults, we spend so much time worrying about caloric intake and burning off enough calories when we're exercising to compensate for eating the things we want. We forget and we lose track of that intuitive eating that tells us we're hungry or we're full. Children don't. They know exactly when they're hungry. They'll be cranky and they'll tell you they're hungry and they will want food ASAP. When they're done eating, they'll tell you and then they'll stop. Let's get back to that. And then you can go have that Cinnabon you were craving after the show. Practice kindness and forgiveness, number 6. Last year, my friend Liz stood on this very same stage in her sparkly pink sneakers, and she told us that being kind is more important than eating, than food. And I believe her wholeheartedly. You should check out her speech because she articulates it better than I ever could. Basically, the point is we can do so much more when we are kind to one another. Part of being kind is also forgiveness, forgiving others, forgiving ourselves. Excuse me. There's been a number of times in my work where children have been fighting and arguing, sometimes even physically fighting. I rush over to go see what the problem is and try to help and interject, and before I can even say anything or figure out what's going on, they've forgiven themselves and they're besties again. Enemies to best friends in a matter of minutes, and they do it all themselves. Children show us that forgiveness and kindness really is that simple. Okay, a couple numbers here. It's not all just fuzzy stories. 90% of a child's brain develops before the age of 5. I don't know what other kind of numbers I need to give to you to show how important those first formative years are. Why are we not focusing on what we were like in those first couple of years when it's 90% of our brain is developed in that time period? Do things before you are ready. I really want you to look at this picture. Children will literally leap before they look. I guarantee you this boy did not take a second to think about what he was doing. He saw something and he leapt. He didn't think about the safety parameters or anything like that. He just went for it. It's important for us to do this. I've seen toddlers run before they can walk. Literally, they will start charging before they've even learned how to walk. Now, this might sound unsafe, and 100% of the time they do fall. It's kind of science, I think. But I think they learn more important lessons by doing this. As adults, sometimes we get really comfortable. We have an idea or something we want to do, and we say, yeah, okay, we'll do this. And then we cozy up, and we get really nice and comfortable in one spot, and we'll stay there. And we might make excuses for ourselves, and we might end up eventually forgetting what it was we wanted to do, or even worse, we talk ourselves out of it altogether until that thing we wanted to do is gone. So, act like a kid. Run before you can walk. Don't get comfortable. Leap before you look. This is my last point. Do what you want. It was mentioned earlier talking about just doing it and things like that, and I loved when I heard that. It sounds kind of selfish. It comes across that way, doing what you want, but it's really important to do. In my work and volunteering work, I've noticed that, and I've made the mistake of picking up a child to play with them or give them a piggyback. It's a mistake because then 6 other kids run up to me and want to do the same thing. They will rush over and go, up, 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 my turn, my turn. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, my back is killing me. I can't do this 6 more times. But it's that spirit that I love, that these kids see something, it's so fun to them, fun looking, and they just want to do it. I'm going to tell you a couple examples in my own life where this has worked out for me. Growing up as a kid, I had a sister, and she was always labeled as the artist of the family. She is an amazing artist, by the way, but that label stuck to her, and I always just associated art with her. I never thought that that was something I could do. The last few years, I've gone to more art shows, and I've started kind of doing some stuff myself, and my natural talents have been coming out. Now I'm proud to say that some of my pieces that I've done in the last few months are going to be shown at the local juried exhibit in November here in my hometown. This is incredibly proud for me, someone who a few short years ago would never have said I was an artist. But I got the idea, I looked at those paintings, and I said, I want to do that. Speaking of TEDx events, my musical hero, Amanda Palmer, did a TED Talk on YouTube a few years ago I watched. She talked about the power of asking for help, asking what you need. It's amazing. You should watch it. I thought, oh, a TED Talk. I've never heard of that. That sounds fun. That was really inspiring. She also put out an album of Radiohead cover songs done entirely on the ukulele. I listened to that CD over and over and over again in my car, and I loved it. And I thought, the ukulele, I never thought of that. I want to do that. Interestingly enough, I looked up who could teach me how to do that. I took a few lessons with our very own Chris Rupert, who's here today. And I taught myself a little bit of tab from YouTube. And now I know enough songs on the ukulele that I can play some for children and annoy the heck out of my friends and family. So, huzzah. I know, they were so happy that I brought that here today. Last year, I sat in the same seats that you're sitting in now. Not all of them, just one. I listened to two separate teachers for the same school board I work for now talk about their love of education and what they were doing in the classroom to get students more engaged. It was inspiring, it was motivating. I wanted to do more with my career. I talked to them after. Since last year, I've had the fortunate ability to supply teach in both their classrooms, and now we're good friends. I looked at them on stage and heard what they were doing in the same field that I'm in. I said, I want to do that. It was the equivalent of me reaching up. I want to do that. And now here I am. Children show us these things if we're slow enough, quiet enough, wise enough to listen. It's not complicated or convoluted. It's just about getting back to our roots, acting like our 10-year-old selves, our 5-year-old selves, going for those dreams and desires we had. Act your shoe size, not your age. And now, in the spirit of doing something before I'm entirely ready and doing something just because I want to do it, I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation. Awesome. You're all naturals. Go see Chris after for lessons. One more thing I'm going to ask of you. Please, take a look at the bottom of your shoe right now. Read the number and act accordingly. Thank you.